There are a number of different reasons why you'd want to combine multiple exposures in Photoshop. And in this movie, we're going to combine multiple exposures for reasons of focus. Let's go ahead and open up the two files, corwigfocus.psd and corwigfocus2.psd. Go ahead and open those up in Photoshop and then go to Window, Arrange Tile Horizontally. That's right. There we have the two images. And here you can see we have these two photographs of this old American flag with a magnifying glass. And in one photograph, I'm focused on the magnifying glass. And in the other photograph, I'm focused on the star. And what I want to do is combine these two layers together so that I can have the magnifying glass as well as the star in focus. So I'm going to click on Focus 2, hold down the Shift key, click and drag and drop and bring that into this file. And next I'm going to lower my opacity, see how things are lining up for me. And that is looking pretty good. Take the opacity back up and I'll name this layer Magnify. Next I'm going to create a mask. So I'll click on the mask icon and grab my brush tool and begin to paint with black. A nice soft brush. That brush is way too hard, right? And I'm going to use the Wacom tablet here just so I can dial this in just right. Smaller brush size, do some edge work. Nice thing about masking is that you can go back and fix it up if you make a mistake. And it's always a good idea to Option or Alt-click your mask to see how it's going, or to Shift Option or Shift Alt-click your mask. It shows you the mask in the red ruby with overlay. And from here what you can do is clean up any areas that aren't quite good enough. Let's take a look at our before and after. Shift Option, click that mask. Look at our before and after. What we're doing is we brought the image on top of it, and then we're bringing some focus in. That looks pretty good. We now have the focus star inside of the magnifying glass. Let's press F to go to full screen view mode. Zoom in so we can actually see our image. Should have done that earlier, shouldn't I? That's fine. We can now see where we are going with this, and that looks pretty good. I'm just clicking this on and off to look for any areas that I need to fix up. I want to do a couple more things here. One of the things I'm noticing, I see some white or some gray here. I want to change that. So I'm going to create a new layer, Shift Option Command N, and I'll name that layer Blue. Next, I'm going to select the eyedropper by clicking on the I key and sampling this blue here, and grab my brush and change the blend mode of this layer to color. Gosh, that was a mouthful. New layer, blend mode of color, grab your brush, paint with blue. Really not that complicated. Maybe I overcomplicated that one for us. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just looking to bring in some blue here. And I'm looking to do that because I want this to really just kind of stick together. Now let's look at our before and after. Now that keeps the flag nice and blue. Zoom out. The next thing that I want to do is create a new layer and grab my clone stamp tool, and I want to clone away this white stripe over here because it's right on the edge of the image. And I'll take my blend mode to normal, opacity of 100%. Because this is out of focus back here, I'm going to be able to get away with this. Just make sure to sample from a few different areas. That looks pretty good. Next, a curves adjustment layer on top of everything. A lot of times when you're combining multiple exposures, you want to be sure to apply a global adjustment, like a curves adjustment or a color, because what it will do is it will help everything connect together. That's subtle, yet important. There we go. That looks pretty nice. Let's go ahead and zoom in, press Tab, F to go to full screen mode. And one of the things I realized when I went there is that I need to work on this edge over here a little bit more. I didn't quite get all of it, so I'm going to go ahead and clone out the brightness value on the edge. One of the reasons why you want to take away brightness on an edge of an image is because you don't want the user's eye to travel there, because, you know, the user goes to areas of brightness and areas of focus. And so if we can diminish those, we don't have to take them out all the way, but diminish them, well then we're going to be better off because the user can then stay focused on the main area of the content, in our case, which is the image. That wraps up this first look at combining multiple exposures. In this movie, we'll be working on the file corwigmultiplesky.psd. Go ahead and open that one up. and zoom in to check out the image. Here we have some amazing just graffiti murals. I was just so impressed with those, and the juxtaposition of those murals, all their saturated colors and surrealism, next to these old decrepit houses and this wall that's made out of shells and rocks and everything. And I was just thinking, gosh, that is just so fascinating, yet there's a problem. The sky is bright white. And we have this problem a lot in photography. So what I want to do is combine this shot with another shot. I want to find another exposure that I took at a different time of day and a different location and bring that sky in just to take out some of the white, just to reduce a little bit of the white and bring back a little bit of visual interest here. So that's what I'm going to do. First things first, click in the background layer, select Curves Adjustment, and I'm going to create a real high contrast curve. Click OK, because this will help me get a good selection. Next, grab the wand tool, W on the keyboard, and you know what, actually right around 30 will probably work pretty well. Make sure contiguous is checked on, of course, that would be helpful. So now that I have that checked on, I'm going to zoom in to see how I'm doing. So far so good. Hold down the shift key to hit a few spots here, and a couple of these areas like these plants right here and these plants over here I'm probably going to delete, probably going to get rid of the plants, but for now I think we have a pretty good selection. Now that we have this decent selection, let's go over to our sky layer and click the mask icon and see how we're doing. Here's our before and after. Well, so far so good for our first step. It looks a little choppy. We have a few areas to fix up, so I'm going to zoom in on my mask, grab my paintbrush, smaller brush than that, and I am going to delete paint with 100%. I'm going to delete these bushes. I am over them because I'm going to delete them because I can. Because it's going to be tricky to have the sky come through those. Now, if I needed to have the sky come through those, what I would need to do is zoom way in, look for any white pixels, and then mask those off so I could bring the sky through. Clean up the roof there a little bit. And again, this plant, the problem child up here. Look at that, all those things. Look at that, all the sky coming through. It's just going to be real tricky to fix that. I'm just going to click and shift click, give me a nice straight line there, and mask this stuff off pretty quickly. I might hit this whole roof line here just to add a little bit of consistency on it. Man, I'm just taking too much off. Click and then shift click. What that can do for you is it can just visual consistency on my mask, because now that all looks kind of the same. Let's look at our before and after. Okay, so far so good. So let's fix up our mask. Click on your mask and navigate to Filter, Other, Maximum. What this will do is it will maximize our mask. If I take this away, and you can see it just diminishing the buildings. But right now it's about 1 pixel, so it brought it in quite a bit. Let's look at our before and after. So just trimming the edge off. Now I'm going to fade it back out. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Not that far. Just trying to find the sweet spot here. I think that looks pretty good. Now let's look at our before and after. What that does is it blends these layers together a little bit better, and it gives us this consistent edge along everything that has the same type of blending, because it was pretty harsh when I selected it with my marquee tool. Now that I have that, I'm going to turn on the Sky 2 layer and Option click or Alt click and drag this mask to this one. And what I'd like to do is combine these two layers. So I'm going to go ahead and lower the opacity a bit, or how about, why don't we try soft light for that one? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Just adds a little bit of depth to it. A few clouds in this somewhat blue sky. So then I have a little bit of clouds, just kind of layering things together. And let's press Tab F to go to full screen view mode, F7 key. And I was going to say, let's look at our before and after. I didn't even realize I left my curves adjustment layer on. You got to get rid of that. Shows you how much I was paying attention. Here's now our before and after. That foreground was just out of control, right? That wasn't correct. So here's our before and after. That looks pretty nice in regards to adding some clouds. Next I want to group these. Select both those, Command G for group. Now I can lower the opacity of this layer. If I want it to be a little bit brighter, I can lower the opacity. Of course, I'm losing a little bit on my mask, so I need to fix that up, but I'm just going to testing to see if this is going in a good direction. Say, yeah, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to keep it all the way up. Now, let's say what I want to do is I do want to decrease the intensity of the sky, but I don't want to have to deal with my mask and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's how we can do this. I can grab my mask, Option click and drag it onto the background down here. And then let's hide this layer for a second. So now I have everything but the image. Invert my mask on this layer by pressing Command I. So now you can see I just have the foreground, no sky at all. I'll create a new layer underneath this by command clicking my new layer icon. I'll fill that one with white. Now I can go back up here to my group, and now when I lower the opacity of this, I'm just going to go back to that white color. So if I want a brighter sky to get a little bit closer to what the sky was actually like, I can add my mask down here to this image. Alright, well that may have been a little bit loopy for you. If it was, don't worry, just keep in mind that you can always go back and modify your mask up here if you want to lower the opacity of this layer. Well, the next thing that I want to do is have a little bit of fun. I have this other photograph of this huge graffiti wall, probably 50 feet tall by, I don't know, 60 feet wide. And what I want to do is put this in the background just for the fun of it. Because I have this nice mask, I'm going to option click and drag that mask. And there we have this guy hovering in the background, kind of just for the heck of it with this surreal environment. And the reason I'm doing this is just to point out the fact that sometimes what you do is you go for realism when you're replacing sky. Other time you may be trying to create some kind of environment, maybe for commercial purposes, and you can use the same techniques to put something else in the background. I'll turn that layer off and leave my sky layer on and press F7, and that wraps up our work on this image. See you in the next movie. In this movie, we'll be working on CORWG_multiple.psd. You know, sometimes you combine multiple exposures because of composition reasons. Now here I have this photograph that I need to get to a client, and I have two shots. I have one shot that's a little bit pulled back where the athlete's holding his bike in this way, and I like the composition of this one because the feet are in the shot, yet I don't really like the way he's holding the bike. I think this one looks a lot better. So what I want to do is combine these two images and get the best of both worlds. Get this hand posture as well as the feet in the shot, because I rookied it. I cut off the feet. Now it's not a horrible shot without the feet, yet I think it would be a lot better, right, if those were there. Well, first things first, one of the things we notice is that the no feet image is a lot bigger. So I need to decrease the size of that. So I am going to click on the visibility of this layer and lower the opacity quite a bit so I can see to the background. And I'm going to position, let's say, part of the bike there, the cranks, and then press Command T and free transform. Whoa, that was crazy. Photoshop just went nuts. And then free transform this, reposition the cranks, because I know that those two things at least need to be the same size, right? Just looking for something that I can use as a reference point in the image. A great blend mode when you're doing alignment and stuff like this is difference. Alright, that looks pretty good. The bike's in a different position, so what I'm doing is I'm checking out to see how the athlete is aligned with himself. Okay, that looks pretty good. Return, and as a side note, you want to make sure you go to Photoshop Preferences General and change your image interpolation to bicubic sharper, best for reduction. So when you're reducing your images, like we just did here with transform, it's on bicubic sharper. Otherwise, it will be on the default bicubic, which is best for smooth gradients, not best for reduction. So if you find yourself, like me, reducing things, make sure that's your preference setting. Alright, that was a side note. Back to the image. Now we can take the opacity back to 100%. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look to align the wall over here with the piling up here, and I'm going to try to get these two pretty close. And I'm going to work on the mask of the background first, clicking my mask layer. I know I need to work on the guy, but I want to make sure my background's going to work. So I'm going to hit this with the mask here, blend this wall together. Before and after, the new environment is looking good, at least in our first pass.